Mario 3 comes out, Super Mario World comes out, Yoshi's Island comes out a couple years later. So there were gaps by a couple years for those franchises. But Rockstar used to release a bunch of different games, not just GTA. So here's what's happening. Cultural stagnation. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Same thing with music, same thing with movies. They've become formulaic. I'm not going to risk money on creating a game that flops. So now what they want to do is they want to say, you're going to make a movie? Okay, do we want to make Groundhog Day?
Tim, it seems to me like something else could in fact be afoot here. So to start this week out, before we fully decide to transition into the brand new content, I figured that I would talk about something, at least as far as Monday is concerned, that while it is definitely not sports, it's definitely not media. Well, it is media to a certain extent, because even gaming is a media nowadays. I figured I would talk about this because I think that at the very heart of this issue, I think that there's something deeper, something much, much larger going on. Now, guys, before we fully dig into this video right here from moistcritical will be in the description box, because I did catch this story originally through him. Not like I watch Charlie or anything, but every now and again his videos do pop up in my feed. And the topic itself was something that I, quite frankly, got interested in because I do at some point in time plan on creating a gaming walkthrough channel. And no, I do not have a PS5, which is exactly what I would probably buy to go along with my PS4, PS3, etc., etc., etc. But trust me, we shall get to that soon, because I do believe that that issue and, of course, the GTA6 delay kind of goes hand in hand. There's also going to be this video right here from Sydney Watson that I'll be referring to, even though I will not be playing anything from that video, because I think she made some extremely good points, which kind of connect to what Tim was saying at the very beginning. Also, something else too, if you guys can, please, if you've not subscribed to the channel, but you like this content, it's the best way to support this channel for free. Please hit the subscribe button, make sure the notifications are on. If you are already subscribed to the channel, please make sure the notification bell is on, so that way you guys are notified when this content is released. And if you guys can, please hit that thumbs up button, hit that like button, so that way the video will take off up the algorithm and get out to a much, much larger audience, so we can grow this channel. And let us go ahead and get into this. So, you may or may not have heard that Grand Theft Auto 6 has been pushed back from the release of this year into 2026. Now, me personally, I'm not really that interested in GTA 6 because I kind of want to see what other people have to say before I decide to go out there and spend money on it. But yeah, it seems like there's not going to be that many people buying these products, or at least that's my thinking initially, or not as much as they think they are, seeing how it is that everything is going to be going up in price. As Charlie, moistcritical Penguin CEO, had talked about in a video going into the weekend. Let me play a small bit of it for you now.
This isn't some make-believe fish paste, a little video game industry boogeyman here with some false reports. This is confirmed that Microsoft will be increasing all of their prices across the board on hardware as well as accessories. And most notably, they are increasing the price on their Xbox first-party games to $80, following in line with what Nintendo's doing with some of their games. Nintendo, I think, has set the trend here. They've broken the seal that $80 games will be accepted by people. And by people, I mean gamers, which is a different kind of person, because they will accept any kind of shit you feed them at any price point, it seems. And now, since that case has been made, with the switch to making record-breaking pre-orders, apparently, Microsoft feels confident that they can do the same, and they'll follow suit, and I imagine other big boys in the gaming industry will also do the same, because
Charlie would also say that it felt like they're just simply putting the squeeze to people, and that right there could in fact be correct. Like I said, the video will be linked in the description box. You guys know me, even if it's somebody that I don't like, if I borrow from them, I still put the video in the description box. You guys will see that there's also something else going on too that these people will just never admit to, yet the proof is always in the pudding, but we shall get to that soon. Inflation has something to do with it. Yes, Nintendo setting the trend, Microsoft going along with it, but you guys will see at the very end of the video that it's not exactly what we call sustainable, and it's not exactly something that's going to last. But before we get to that, we got other stuff to talk about. Now, I had to edit some of that down, and I'll even tell you guys what I think is probably going to happen, because, yeah, people are already looking at this and they're saying, well, tariffs is the reason why this is the case. I'm not entirely so sure, at least not in the long term. Maybe the initials, but we shall cover that here soon. So what's the deal? Why is GTA being moved to 2026? Well, normally when something gets pushed back, it's probably because there's maybe something that these people want to rewrite or redo or re-edit. But at this point in time, this late, it could have something to do with the current market. It could have something to do with the price of everything going up. It could be in tandem. I mean, who the hell knows? It could be one of many issues. But still, though, at the same time, many people are looking at this and they're saying, oh my God, the price of this rare is going to go up. However, I do think that there's something else afoot here. And I think that what it is that it's really as a result of Rockstar's laziness. So let us get back to the Beanie Man. Before I do, this segment is roughly 3 minutes long. Now, I'm going to be breaking it a couple of times to respond to it, but I do want to go ahead and say this right now. I am of the age where I grew up in the 90s and early 2000s. Granted, I was born in the 80s, but still, though, the 90s and the early 2000s. That was a special time. The 90s was probably the last real, true, carefree decade that we had. And the early 2000s, a lot of very, very good stuff came out. Basically for the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox, but 3 titles in particular. Max Payne, Rockstar Games. Grand Theft Auto 3, Rockstar Games. Eventually the great Grand Theft Auto Vice City, also Rockstar Games. And Metal Gear Solid 2, which will come up towards the end of this video as well, because Metal Gear will also be included. And of course, to go on top of that, there will be a few channel updates at the end of the video. But let us get to the Beanie Man.
Release schedule going back to 1998. Let me tell you about what it was like when I was younger. 1998, man, I was 12 years old. 12 years old. GTA comes out. In 99, you get GTA London, Thrasher, GTA 2, 3 games. It's okay. GTA London versus GTA were very similar. And for those that don't know these original games, they were like top down. And it was a funny and silly game to play, to be honest. In 2000 to 2002, look at all these games that get released. You got 9 releases. You got Max Payne, Oni. You got, what is this, Burning, H2O, Wild Metal, I don't even know, GTA 3. Everybody I knew had to get GTA 3. It was 3D. You were running around the city. It was crazy. You then got 3 releases in the next year. The next year, 3 releases, then 3 releases, then 3 releases, then 3 releases.
This is true. Very, very true. You typically tended to get more releases. Now, that release schedule from Rockstar, if you guys ask me, is, I don't know, maybe it's a company that thinks that they're so successful, so good, they don't have to produce additional games. Now, there are some companies out there that produce games at a much, much faster rate. But also at the same time, though, you also want to make sure that the game is of quality, that it's actually not only of quality, but actually good. However, I've been noticing that a lot of these games are taking a very, very long time to produce. They don't have good writing at all, so it makes me wonder what the hell is going on in these places. Now, there is something else, too, that I would feel completely and totally stupid for not talking about, and I think I have to, especially given the fact that this channel at one point in time was primarily supposed to be a sports and culture channel, which I've talked less and less and less about sports up until recently. But still, though, I think I need to point this out. There's a channel here on YouTube called Soft Drink TV. I think he still operates. He primarily reviews EA games, NFL, Madden, that type of stuff there. And I used to be an avid buyer of Madden games. That right there was until about, I think, Madden 18, Madden 19. I just said, I need to kind of like balance this out and go get out and do a little bit more and all that type of good stuff and whatnot, because I had gotten kind of to a bit of a period where I just played video games in my time off work or outside of school, because I did go to school again late. University. Soft Drink TV, in his videos, he has asserted that Madden's quality itself has gone down more and more and more. It has. Ever since about 2000, I'd say 2015, the Madden games, quite frankly, have been shit. I mean, the minute the NFL pretty much gave EA Sports the license and there was no competition, that right there is when people began to notice that Madden became very, very, let's just say, repetitive. It's a football game, obviously, and you got to have one out every year to kind of update the rosters and all that type of stuff there. But if anything, maybe this right here is where the online thing that Tim is about to talk about could actually work. But speaking of the Beanie Guy, let's get to that and then come back to what I was saying here shortly.
7, you got 1. The point is, over time, they slowly released less and less. Then came 2013 with GTA 5 and nothing for 5 years until Red Dead Redemption. 2018 Red Dead Redemption It's now 2025, and they're telling us, look at this chart. GTA 5, 2025, sorry boys, delayed one more year. There's two big reasons why this is happening. They're making money on online and mobile. So games that used to get released all the time was like, make more games, man. Let's try and get a banger.
There could also be the possibility of a complete total lack of creativity. It could also be the fact that people, for the most part, just want games to play rather than story-based video games. I have a tendency to like both of them, but Tim does kind of indirectly hit this here in a second when he talks about something as memorable as, say, Super Mario. But let's get to that, and we'll come back on the other end.
It's like release one game and just sell skins, and that's what they're doing. The world that Gen Z lives in with video games, you've basically got young people who play one game. You're going to play GTA, Fortnite, and Minecraft. They play one game in a million different iterations, living in that one world. Here's how it was when I was a kid. Right now in our boonies, back in the day when I was a kid, we would go out. There was a place called Farmore. It's like a pharmacy. I barely remember what it was. I don't think they exist anymore. Pretty sure they don't. And they had a rental section for video games for NES cartridges. And the amount of games was nuts. You might be saying, Tim, there's more games than ever. Yeah, but they're like mobile, one-off, overly simple. It's not the same thing. So when we're looking at these big AAAs, they're very similar to how we got releases of, like, say, Mario 64 or something. Now, to be fair, Mario games came out, I don't know the release schedule, but it was like a couple of years. Mario 3 comes out, Super Mario World comes out, Yoshi's Island comes out a couple of years later. So there were gaps by a couple of years for those franchises. But Rockstar used to release a bunch of different games, not just GTA. So here's what's happening. Cultural stagnation. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Same thing with music, same thing with movies. They've become formulaic. I'm not going to risk money on creating a game that flops. So now what they want to do is they want to say, you're going to make a movie? Okay, do we want to make Groundhog Day? Yo, Zoomers, have you watched Groundhog Day? It's one of the best movies ever. Probably not. I don't know. Some of you maybe did. It's one of the best movies ever made. Back to the Future. We don't make movies like that anymore unless it's like an indie studio and then no one hears about it. It gets no marketing and the culture is stagnant. Groundhog Day was epic, but today...
Now, the rest of the video, of course, will be linked in the description box. I only pulled about maybe 2.5 minutes from that, but still, though, at the same time, though, yes. Mario Brothers, I'm going to go ahead and say this right now. I know I'm going a little bit off topic. It sounds a little bit old school here. Look, let me give you a quick example before I talk about Mario Brothers. Metal Gear Solid, for example. Metal Gear Solid series. That right there was my favorite series to play from about 1998 till about, I'd say, till sometime after The Phantom Pain. Of which, by the way, some of the future content is going to be based looking at some of those stories to see exactly how prophetic they were. Like I said before, we're going in a different direction. We're going to be doing a lot of films, a lot of movies. They're kind of sort of test videos to kind of round out the year. And videos like this right here will still obviously exist. We'll talk more about that in the update section, but the point is this right here. Some of these games are a little bit more story-based. The Last of Us, for example, is much, much more story-based. Grand Theft Auto, for example, is story and also a lot of filler there too, but still, they're very, very fun. Some people want games that, quite frankly, are linear. All right, Super Mario Bros., for example, is much, much more linear. And I know I'm kind of going old school here, but it's actually much, much more fun to play. It could be that there, and maybe the gaming companies think that that right there could, in fact, be the way to go because everything is eventually going to be online anyways. That, by the way, actually sucks because physical media is always better. That right there is what somebody might would think on the surface, but me personally, I think it's exactly what Sydney Watson said in her video about modern Hollywood. The same exact thing is happening in gaming. It's the complete total lack of creativity. That is what I believe is happening. And some of these companies, by the way, have gotten so big and so daggone bloated that they, quite frankly, don't need to put out a new game every single year. Now, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? Well, initially you would think it's a good thing because obviously it's great for the company that they got that successful. However, given the crap that has been thrown down our throats or thrown in our face, it's about 2015, 2016. I think what the hell is happening here is that these people are just simply losing their creativity. I could go through every single individual story. I'm not going to do that. I think The Last of Us Part 2 was probably the best example of somebody usurping the previous creative team to put across ideas that they had wanted in the previous game that would not have worked because they were filtered out. I think I'll leave this video here from Saucy Tendencies in the description box as well if you guys just want to just kind of look and see exactly how somebody could be so jealous over a product that they did not get the first time, but yet they chose to put in there the second time, and it completely and totally ruined their franchise in the process. But still, though, the point is this right here. I think what the hell is really going on here, the true heart of what's going on here, is that these video game creators have, let's just say, lost their creativity. It seems to me like everything nowadays is a remake. It seems to me like everything is a reboot, and in some cases, a reboot could work. However, the problem is that the current state of Hollywood and writers, I don't think they have enough originality in them to actually make good stories, or even borrow from good stories. I don't know, guys. This is starting to sound a little bit more like a rant, starting to devolve more into a rant, and I don't want it to do so, but the point is this right here. It's not the same as it once was, and it's also beginning to find its way into the world of gaming as well. Now, why in the world has GTA been pushed back to 2026? I personally believe it's because of writing more than anything else. Regardless of what Rockstar tells you about this, they're probably going to be pulling your leg. The reason why I know this is because obviously they have to justify the reason for anybody to go out there and pay $80 for the game. Which brings me back to Charlie's complaint earlier. He did another video over the weekend where he basically talked about how it wasn't. He did a video on GTA6, by the way, the release, how it's being delayed, and how it was that he said it was going to be delayed, and then all of a sudden he bombed it wasn't going to be delayed, and he probably should have stuck to his original prediction. But this right here is where I'm going to make my prediction that could very, very well become, how do I say, laughable in a year or so. But I honestly don't believe that's the case. Video game systems, Nintendo, I think it's the Switch 2. You've even got some games coming out, obviously, for Sony PlayStation. Of course, you got PlayStation 5 Pro, which is... I have no idea what the hell Sony was doing when they decided to do that. They should have just went ahead and focused in on the PS6. But then again, though, at the same time, though, given the fact that the PS5 has already gone through, is already in the middle of its sunsetting phase, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. It tells me that these people are kind of like at wit's end. Or maybe they've got a certain thing in mind and they don't care what the hell happens in the process. They don't really care about profits, but pretty sure they are going to, in fact, care very, very much about profits. The point is this right here. These gaming companies have gotten very, very, very complacent with their consumers. However, the consumer at some point in time is going to get, let's just say, frustrated with the lack of creativity. They're going to get frustrated with the price of the product that you want them to pay for. You're talking about Xbox and PlayStation 5 games being $80 some odd. You're talking about the system, the new Nintendo going all the way up in price as well, being much more expensive than what the normal newer system is. Yet I go online, I type in PlayStation 5, and I see one for $400. That $400 is going to be $349 this year at Christmas. It may even be lower than that. But do you know what else is going to be low? The PlayStation 4. You know what else is going to be low? If you can find it, maybe a PlayStation 3. PlayStation 2 is probably going to be through the roof because it's going to be a rare system. Tim also talked about something else in there too, about little tiny systems that have like 30, 40. You see them get advertised on Facebook a lot. Got hundreds of games, old school games. Of course, those things are going to get popular. People are going to want what's old because after a while they're going to realize that what the hell is on the shelf currently that's trendy right now is a little bit too expensive. So it's going to create a bit of a nostalgia for the older thing, which is actually in a lot of ways a good thing because most of the time the older product is in fact better. As a matter of fact, George Lucas, people have been saying that George Lucas ultimately won when it came to Star Wars because they re-released Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. And a lot of these young people are going to go see it and they're like, wow, why did I not see this right before? What? It's on Disney Network. You could have seen it there. But still, though, people still paid money to go see that film, even though I went to go see it in 2005 when it first came out, right before my second deployment to Iraq. The point is this right here. People are beginning to see that the older product was much, much better, much, much more creative, even though Episode 3 had its problems. The point is, like I said before, people are starting to see that. And then you get this other issue, which, of course, is what I mentioned earlier about video game systems being much, much higher, and yet the price of something like, say, a PlayStation 5 regular probably goes down in price. Well, that right there is where we get our next conundrum. These video game companies think that they're going to be able to increase the hell out of the price and everything, that people will just go buy it. The problem is that after they get their initial sales, because last I checked, the PlayStation 5, when it was released in 2020, actually went under in sales. It did not get anywhere they needed to get to. I think it was 2021, my bad. The point is this right here. The price, if it continues to go up more and more and more beyond what people can pay for, they're not going to buy the product, which is going to leave a lot of these products on the shelf. So what the hell ends up happening? Well, Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, They got to get the product off the shelf. They got to sell it to make a profit. So what do? They cut the hell out of the price. If you just wait a little while, maybe a year and a half to 2 years, you'll probably see the price of something like, say, GTA6, which is supposed to be $80. You'll probably see it get released, get dropped down to $39. I'm just simply saying that when it comes to the world of gaming, you might want to be a little bit patient. And, I don't know, maybe explore more options within what you have. Which leads me to the updates of this video. Now, guys, the same updates in this video will be in tomorrow's video too, because, well, you guys know me. I hate doing the updates thing, so just get it done right once and get them both in the same video. So let me go ahead and get to that. What I was saying earlier about exploring stuff like, say, stories like, say, Metal Gear Solid franchise, the series, talking about like where it was prophetic or whatnot. That's, if you haven't caught on with the previous video, which I did do an updates video before, that's kind of the direction that we're going to be going in. However, for the time being, in the month of May, I'm still going to be trying to get roughly a video out every day, at least for the month itself. Obviously, you got to pay the bills, etc., 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 until we fully transition over into that. And also something else too, I still refer to them as test videos because I'm obviously testing these videos out with you guys, and I want you guys opinions and approval on them. But still, though, at the same time, though, there's still going to be daily videos throughout the month of May and probably even the month of June, too. But you would probably see one of these quote-unquote test videos released every 2 weeks until we fully transition out on this type of content. The overall goal was 2026, but the start was ultimately May of 2025. So that would be happening. There is also one more thing, too, and I want to give you guys a quick example on these videos right quick. The first video is going to be released on this channel that is going to be a quote-unquote test video or story type video or explanation of a story. Is going to be on the film Full Metal Jacket. Now, here's what I want to tell you guys before we go further. I noticed that when I released video essays on Gear Issue 33, the very, very few that I did release, which, by the way, I will link some in the description box for you guys, or at least one in particular, because the second one, if it's rare, is going to be on First Blood. But the thing is this right here. Oftentimes, these videos, you have to post them roughly a week or 2 weeks in advance. So what will probably happen is I'll probably finish up the video this week, but you probably won't see it actually get posted until probably one day the following week or the week after. The reason why is because when you upload a video, this right here is when YouTube begins its copyright checks. This is when, and for example, Full Metal Jacket, Warner Brothers are obviously going to be looking for, copyright. And of course, you got to go through the copyright claims process, which I have learned how to navigate. So therefore, those videos typically tend to not get released right then and there. If you get beyond the first 2 weeks with it being uploaded, normally you're okay for monetization. But still, though, copyright can be a bit of a pain in the ass. So that is a reason why it is that I'll probably be putting it out there like 2 weeks in advance. Still, though, at the same time, though, you guys know me. I love to give you guys updates in the process of what's actually going on and updating you to what project's coming out or what video's coming out. For case in point, for example, the China video, the video on Nicholas Irvin responding to him, that video is probably going to get released tomorrow or Wednesday. Still, though, just giving you guys some quick updates. Please hit the like button, subscribe, share. Love to hear what you guys have got to say, and I'll see you guys later.